Today we're going to be speaking about how businesses and leadership has challenges, how we learn from it. And today we have a very special guest. We're going to be talking about creative leadership and innovative marketing with the CEO and founder of Mojo Creative Digital, which is Alexander Fricari. I'm your host today, Kaylee Jakovics, and with me I have
Holly Basta. Welcome to The Diligent Leader, Mastering Business. Welcome, Alex. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Holly. It's great to be here.
Yeah,
Good. It's being
excited
good
to
being at
have
this
you.
table.
Yeah.
I like this.
Yeah. I know. It's a little different setup, but we enjoy having you here, and we're excited to hear about Mojo. And let's start with telling us about yourself, more on the personal side.
Sure.
What do you like to do? What's your passion, family, fun, friends?
Yeah. So, Navy guy at heart, served in, back in 92 to 90, or not, yeah, 93 to 96. And after leaving there, I ended up moving to Maryland. And when I came here on a blind date, I met my wife that I was an hour late for.
Yeah.
And luckily, I had some friends that were kind of also going on the blind date. So they just said, he's late sometimes. You got to deal with it.
That checks out.
Yeah, that story's true. So anyway, but I convinced her enough where she stuck around, and ever since then, we've been living here in Maryland. I guess we've been married about 22 years now, and I have 3 boys. The last one's just graduated from high school, all in the Chesapeake, Pasadena area, and my passion is business, and but on the free time I love cutting my lawn. That's my favorite thing. Getting my riding lawnmower, that's my favorite pastime all day, and just kind of being out there tending the crops. So.
Very cool. Very cool.
So that's so interesting. Tell us a little bit more about your background. What led up to the founding of Mojo? Was there some special event or epiphany that led you to decide to start a marketing company in Maryland?
Well, that's a great question, because I had no inspiration or leadership experience working in a marketing agency. I didn't know what a marketing agency really looked like, what it was, how it operated. But I always had this artistic flair, and I always told people I'm more of like a Norman Rockwell than a Jackson Pollock. So I can take what your vision is and make it a reality. But what I really was more passionate about was technology. And so after I got out of the Navy, played around with illustration, and then I was like, somebody can say you can get your MSIs and do networking and technology. And I was like, okay, that's great. And I realized I hated it. So at some point I was like, okay, I just had enough. And I remember the point I'd worked for a couple .coms, very successful, had great opportunities. But then the recession, the .bomb era came, right? And so where we're working for a big company with lots of exposure, next thing you know, everybody's being laid off. No matter how great you are, how big your team is, you're being laid off. And that point was kind of one of those things. I just found out I'd gotten laid off the day before I found out my wife was pregnant with our second child. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. So it was a rough time back then. It was 6 months of unemployment. No matter, I was going to job interviews at 75 people applying for one job in one room at the same time. Those group interviews were horrible. And at some point I said, you know what? I always had an entrepreneur spirit, but I never really knew if I was going to take that dive. And what turned into just doing some side work as a side hustle now to be, current. It was one of those things like, okay, I'll do this. I said, well, I got to give it a go. And then I had fixed a computer for a friend, and he said, you should go help my other friend. I was like, okay. So it was his guy, his name was Dave, and I said, sure, I'll come help him out. And next thing you know, we hit it off. And so we started talking about websites, and he knew I kind of played around with websites. I was doing it as a side hustle. And he's like, well, what else can you do? And next thing you know, we built Mojo. And that was in 2004. And at the time we were building websites for the real estate industry only. It was that one vertical, that one focus. And we were building quality over quantity. That's still who we are today. But it was the wrong industry to be in, because 4 years after we started, the housing recession took place. They just collapsed the housing market. And so we lost 85% of our customers in roughly a few months. And so we had to pivot, revamp. The company kind of took a little spin, and I rebuilt Mojo, this time on my own. And we started diversifying. And at that point, I was reaffirmed, to kind of go back to your earlier question. It was the necessity of family. It was the necessity to not have my future taken away by somebody else again, at least not on terms I didn't agree with. Right. And so, not, I mean, everybody can work for somebody, but I think at some point, if you don't align with the vision and the company and the leadership, you have to make your own decision. And for me, that was kind of it. And Mojo was the catalyst.
So I wanted to go back to something that you said, because I think it's very important. So you mentioned some of the challenges that you've faced as you've grown the business.
Yeah.
And you mentioned pivoting when you have, something that doesn't work out.
Yeah.
Or
A recession.
a recession,
Yeah, a
something
recession.
like that, where,
Yeah.
you have to re-envision
Yeah.
what's my next move? Where am I going from
Sure.
here? So can you talk a little bit about, from a leadership perspective, sort of the mindset that you have to get yourself into as an entrepreneur to weather those type of storms?
The truth is, it's kind of like riding a wave. If there's a seasoned surfer out there, and I'm not a surfer at all, but if you are out there, you know who you are. You've done this. You don't control the wave, right? But you do know the days to go out. You do know theoretically why the wave breaks and how long you can be on it. And theoretically, if you start here, you'll end up about there. And the reality is, you can't control the wave. Right. But you have to focus in, how well am I going to ride the board? Am I going to keep getting back up on that board? Am I going to keep trying? Am I going to use a better wax on the board? Am I going to, get a better board? Like what you have to look at, controlling as many of your surroundings as possible. And at the end of the day, when you do wipe out, because it's going to happen, you are going to fail. You have to say, okay, I'm going to get back on because I want it that bad. And I think part of that change and that, the pivoting is, anytime you're faced with an obstacle, whether a reef or a break or any analogy you want to come up with, you have to embrace change, because it is going to happen, whether you like it or not. And you can either be forced to change, or you can evolve and try to be proactive about it. And I think earlier as a leader, I was forced to change. And later on, I wanted to change, and I wanted to keep pivoting and evolve, and I wanted to be proactive about it because I kind of learned to embrace it.
Well, you said something about earlier in a different podcast. You talked about seeing failures as lessons, and I think that's part of the mindset that people who might just be starting out in business, and even sometimes, seasoned business leaders, I feel like can fall into a little bit of a rut, just depending on the circumstances. So I think seeing things as lessons, as opposed to like accepting, yes, that didn't work out, but not necessarily classifying it as a failure, seeing it more as a lesson.
And it seems like you've evolved throughout the years, not just as a company, but as a leader.
Yeah.
I mean, what type of key qualities, not only what is your leadership style or philosophy, but what kind of are those essential leadership qualities that you have that helps make Mojo successful?
So, I get particularly excited about this because I'm passionate about it. And it comes down to 4 traits to kind of answer your question. And I say it's like on our website, it's listed as 3, but it's technically 4. But they were nothing I knew. Like, I didn't grow up and say, I'm going to be a perfect leader, right? It's through pain, through experience, through all of these things that are going on that you're going to say, okay, I'm going to learn from it and I want to improve from it. And so those 4 traits that I learned, that really I ask for my team members, right? And that's the first word I'm using, team members. So I didn't do this alone. But the team they have to be humble. They have to be hungry, diligent, and candid, right? And humble means like you have to be a continual learner. And I, as a leader, that's a trait I know. I can't go into a room and expect everybody to do as I say, because I don't know everything. And I'm only going to be a better leader if I listen, because there's great ideas and other people have other vantage points of the organization that I can't always see. So for me, being humble and being a continual learner is important. Being hungry for it, right? Because if you're not hungry, the bad days are horrible. Like, you have to want it and be able to say, that tastes like crap, but I'm going to keep on going, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think being hungry for what you're doing is important. The next thing is being diligent, and kind of like the diligent leader. It's one of those things where you're going to, life happens, good, bad, recessions, like all these things are happening. At the end of the day, you have to be able to stay focused, because what I don't do will impact somebody. Granted, we are a smaller organization, like GE is huge, but GE, some people, they do great innovative things, but also everybody's individual successes and failures are hidden by the size of the organization. Here, at Mojo, we all depend upon each other. You take a day off, take a day off, but understand whatever your goal is will directly impact somebody. And lastly is really being candid. I found that the last skill, and then maybe in 5 years, there'll be 5 more lessons, 5 more things to add to the list. But being candid with myself is really important. I'm not talking about being honest. I'm talking about being able to hear the truth for what it is and saying, okay, I'm going to adapt for it. And I think that, to your other point, Holly, was how I've learned to adapt is, being candid with myself about the situation. It's just, okay, it is what it is. But those are the 4 traits that I look for. That's how I kind of look at it. And as far as leadership style, I think that kind of embodies it, but I think I really do try to lean on my team. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm a work in progress every single day, but I do have to remind myself there's some things I'm great at, some things I'm not.
Yeah.
I have a question based off of that. So I like it that you mentioned working with your team and sort of taking, sort of their input and then figuring out where to go. Talk a little bit about how leaders can be better listeners to their team members and to the people that are advising them, because I feel like sometimes leaders have a vision and they know what it's going to take to get them there, and then they have the team members that are sort of advising them, but not all leaders necessarily take that advisement into account. So talk a little bit about how you work with your team and how you sort of blend in all of the puzzle pieces to make it work.
Yeah. The first thing that I ever did was I learned a lesson. I was talking too much in a meeting, right? And I listened to myself at one point. I was like, holy shit, like I need to shut up, right? And then I was talking to a friend, and they said, the wisest man in the room is the quietest man in the room. And I'm like, okay, I've heard that
Very
before,
true.
but now it kind of really resonated with me. And I'm like, okay. So I've found that for other leaders out there, it's really, you do have to find a balance. Right, but there is a time you just need to shut up and just see what happens. Like, your team's going to thrive because they get to work it out. They get to see their own faults and successes, and they get to celebrate those. And so, but you need to kind of be quiet. And when you are passionate about something, it's tough because sometimes I'm like, okay, I'm going to be passionate about it. I'm going to just lay it. This is the way it's going to be.
You get very excited.
I do get
all of
very
us, we do,
excited. I do
honestly,
get
yeah.
very excited. But I do have to sometimes say, okay, and I think I've said it to you, Kayla, I've said it to other people, we'll try it your way. Let's see what happens, And so I'll say, kind of like in a nice way, I don't think it's going to work, but we can give it a go, And it's not that I don't mean it in a disparaging way. I know deep inside, if I can keep myself in check, that I only learned because I had to go out there on my own and do it, and nobody's going to be a better leader than through their own personal experiences. So.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And with almost coming up on 20 years as a business owner, which congrats on that.
Thanks.
But do you have any advice for other leaders or aspiring to be any type of leadership or in the community?
I would say if you're trying to be a leader because of fame, fortune, ego, you're doing the wrong thing. I can't do it for that reason. I do it and I ask anybody I'm interviewing with, I say, how can I serve you best? As your leader, how can I serve you? And that's what your job is. You are there to serve the rest of your team. Sure, you may get to wake up later, or you might get a couple extra bucks in your paycheck every once in a while. But the truth of the matter, if you're going into business for the glory of it, don't do it.
Right.
You're going to be disappointed because it is lonely at the top, and nobody's going to celebrate you. Like, you are there to celebrate yourself. Like, it's okay, I did it, and you got to rest well, knowing at the end of the time nobody's patting your head and said you did a really good job. It's it's lonely, and I'm not saying poor me. I'm just simply saying, as if any of your listeners are out there and you're looking to do, I want to be a leader in my own organization. Think about it. There's a good book I'd recommend called the E-Myth. It's an older book. It's E-Myth revisited now, but basically the idea is that most businesses become from a technician starting somewhere, right? They became a technician. They want to become the owner because they thought they could do it better. And what they don't realize is all the pitfalls, all that go along with that. And so the E-Myth kind of gives you a perspective, a different vantage point of that. But I don't know. That's what I would have to say about it. Go for it. Don't be afraid. And another bit of advice is, from my partner and good friend, fail fast. Get up there and deal with it. Fail fast.
I think some of the best leaders, they're not the super just boastful, look at me, look at all my achievements. It's those people that are working with the teams. It's the people that are working together to collaborate to make sure that not only is the business successful or, whatever effort it is successful, but it's, making sure that the team is there as well. So.
Yeah. And your team is literally everything to you.
Yep.
I mean, I know, and I have a phenomenal team, and I don't know if they'll see this, but I really do. The only reason I'm even here talking to you right now is because I can operate in great confidence that they're doing their job, they have their tools, and they balance me. Like they're my alter egos in every shape and form. Every one of them serve a better strength that I do not have, or I can't do it without them. Either way, it doesn't change anything. Like I need them as much as they need me.
Yeah.
So
Well, with Mojo, I just kind of want to move into some programs,
Sure.
initiatives. Give us an overview of the services. Anything exciting you have coming up? Any new technologies, programs?
Yeah. So, Mojo itself is the mission was to provide the most innovative and creative solutions for marketing, but they bridge the gap between marketing operations. That was my goal, right? And so that means we use tools like website design, mobile applications, web applications, back office integrations, and digital marketing, marketing consulting, customer journey development. All of those touch points that a customer comes into with a brand, whether it be by email, walking up to a counter, we want to help our clients be successful, look like superheroes to their teams and to their customers by making there's that frequency and consistency, because that's what marketing is. It's frequency and consistency. And no matter how you look at it, that's what it's going to come down to. So we use all those tools to create that voice, that consistency in the message. But Mojo today is all like we are the same organization we were in a lot of ways. When we started in real estate, right, in 2004, right, and we started. But we've added new services. And so I think what's happened is if you look at what's happened in the industry, in 2004, there were roughly 2 million new businesses a year, 2.5 million businesses a year. Now, in 2024, we're roughly at 6 million businesses a year are starting. And a lot of that increase has happened since COVID. So since COVID 2000 to now, we have seen the biggest increase in businesses booming because of, they realized it's not a traditional world our parents and grandparents grew up in, right? And so with the result of that, Mojo has to change, right? We have to evolve, we have to pivot, right? To Holly's point, we have to continue to evolve. And so like some of that is, the new technologies we look at bringing on, which is really customer journey development. And that's a keyword phrase that's been around for a few years, but it's really becoming more prevalent in today's conversation with businesses. And because now they're saying, okay, I can get this. And with technology becoming more affordable, data becoming more widely available, we look at the customer journey in this vantage point. And it's really leveraging AI, leveraging the different tools. How can we improve that customer journey? And so that's what really Mojo's about. And the customer journey is a big part of it. An emphasis on how businesses interact in their own customer journeys for their internal customers and external.
So there's a couple of big trends that are sort of shaping marketing and creative services and how it's done. One of those is AI. I know that your team has been working with clients to talk about how they can use AI to enhance their business and include that innovation into the services that they provide. So I'm curious to hear from you how you like AI, how your company is or isn't using it, and then what do you see as the future for innovating AI into different business models?
Yeah. So AI, I did a presentation recently, and the concept of AI is really much like a power drill. Like the first power drill was invented back in 1885 or 1889. And it was 6-foot base, it was 6 feet long, and it required 2 people, a cooling tank, and it was insane. It wasn't until over time, back in the early 1970s, that we had Bosch made our first handheld pistol-gripped power drill, right? And so if you fast forward over time, AI has been one of those things that started a while ago. The algorithms were placed 50, 30, 40 years ago, and now we start seeing it more and more prevalent. We're coming up to the modern age of what we're looking for AI because of the accelerated growth rate, but the idea is how are people going to use that power drill, right? If I said, here, use a screwdriver, and I want you to assemble 100 cabinets with 1,000 screws each one, you'd be like, no way, I'm not doing this, right? And or if you do it, you're going to do the job at base minimum, right? Now that you have a power drill, you can get creative, you can find different ways, and that's what AI is going to be for us. It's going to be creativity. And so we hear a lot of people talking about it, but the reason we should continue to talk about it is because we're only touching the surface, and like there's so much to learn. Mojo uses AIs in different way. We don't use it to say, hey, go make us a website. That's not AI. We don't just say, here, write me a paragraph, which everybody uses for nowadays, right? ChatGPT, crazy. But no, we look at it as a tool in the toolbox. So if I want to compare 2 designs or 3 designs and see where does the human eye, based upon the physiology of the brain and how it works, where does it go to based upon the ML that's in there, right? Does it evaluate
cool.
and see where the call to action are? Do we use AI to validate our code as our developers are using it? We use also AI to even evaluate RFPs and give us a synopsis. Or when we're in a meeting, we do a creative briefing, somebody to transcribe all that data. Why would somebody retype all of that out, right? Record AI, let it transcribe all the content for you, and then you tweak a couple things and it's done, right? So you look at it as at the power drill, right? It's not taking over. It's augmenting our abilities, and I think that in marketing, it's going to continue. And so from another aspect of it, when we talk about our services, I think that the customer journey, like I see a vision where instead of using AI to create an image, or well, what we do, we use AI to inspire photographers. Like, this is the kind of image I need there. But we don't use it to say, just make us a website. We say, what can we do to help create a better product? And I think that's how we're going to use it. But the big stuff is what's on the horizon, the new tech that we're going to be using it for. So
All right.
I guess you give some insight.
No, yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
problem.
We are getting close to our time, so I just want to kind of move back into the leadership aspect of running a company, being the CEO there. I mean, what activities or practices help you stay motivated and inspired in your leadership role, as well as, what does the balance, the family lifestyle balance look like as well? Because I know it can be a lot.
It can be a lot. I think as today's leaders, though, we do have the opportunities to work from home. Remote work is a very viable option. I don't think it's right for everybody, but I think, having a home life now is not such a taboo thing. Like, it's okay to want to go on a dinner date with your wife. Hi, Michelle, but, I think I think it's one of those things where you have to make priority for yourself. We're in an era now in society where we do put our personal health first, but it doesn't say we shouldn't work hard. It doesn't say that, I read one time that your peak earning potential is between 40 and 60 years of age. That's when you'll make the most amount of money you'll ever have.
All right.
Or you'll be able to
coming
generate.
up for
It's
me
coming
now.
up. So, and like I'm right in the middle. So I
Can't
know
wait
the
till I'm
clock is
40.
ticking, right? But your years of youth and energy and go to is early.
Right.
But we're also impatient then.
Yeah.
Right? I was impatient then. And so the vision and clarity comes with age. But not that I know it all, but I'm just simply saying I got so much to learn. I got a little bit of time left to do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like that goes hand in hand with, what we're talking about here, mastering business.
Right.
No one becomes a master
No.
in a short period of time. It
Right.
takes
Yeah.
years and years. You're in the 20-year mark, so you're mastering business. I feel like, and again,
Yeah.
it really is. It takes time. It takes trial and error.
Yeah.
It takes lessons learned. It takes,
Yeah.
pivoting.
Yeah.
All of that goes into mastering your business.
Yeah. And I just think that, from the leaders that are out there now, they have to look at saying, okay, here's how I'm going to be continued to do this. And how am I going to apply it to my team? You got to motivate your team. You have to empower them. You have to give them creative liberty, except when it comes to graphic design sometimes. No, you want to give them liberty. You want to give them the power to make decisions, and you have to kind of foster that growth. And I think that's what a leader has to do today in a world where you don't understand every vantage point. And if you figure your average business owner is, let's just say 40 to 50, or peak years for most. I mean, they go all the way up to 80. I know people who are in business that are still 80 years old. I know people who are 18 in business. There's no key number, I guess I would like correct. But no matter where you're at, you have to remember you have to empower your team. And I think the challenges that businesses are going to look at now in the future is how do we still empower the team? How do we bring automation and serve so many people that are out there, right? Your customers you're serving are bigger, both internal and external, and you're going to have to start to continue to be nimble. You're going to have to continue to change. There's the human factor of what we do is really critical. And I think even when you're talking about selling or you're talking about building, building your team, it's all about relationships. people have said it 1,000 times, and I don't think I was ready then as a leader. It took a certain point in my career to realize that the words people said, or I parroted out, that were, you have to have relationships, you have to do this, da 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 da, it became noise. And it wasn't until I had enough pain in my life where I was like, oh, you got to have relationships. And nobody's going to buy from you or work with you if they don't trust you. And so you have to give trust to receive trust, and you have to take chances. And that's our job as a leader, to serve and give opportunities for those people. So
Well, thank you. Thank you for all those insights and for joining us today. It's
Yeah,
been a
thank you.
pleasure. You're
yeah.
definitely not just a leader in business, but in the community as
Oh,
well.
thanks. Yeah.
I've learned a lot from you. I know a lot of people have, and they love seeing your presentations and all of that too. So I look forward to that. But
I
thank
feel like
you.
we need a whole podcast
I know,
just to talk about
yeah.
taking risks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that might be a good
and
topic.
I think
Yeah.
we need to have you again too, just to dig in even more just on marketing.
Sure.
Giving recommendations
Yeah.
on certain marketing aspects and tactics to our audience. So
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
20 years business can't be wrapped up in
Yeah,
20
no.
minutes. So
Yeah.
you gotta, but I think it's a good, I think it's
It's a
I'd
good
be
intro.
more than happy to come
It's a
back.
good
Yes.
segue
Yeah.
into
So-
who Mojo is.
Good.
yeah.
Well, I like the questions. It was good sitting down with you both. So I appreciate the time today.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
much.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah.
Well, as we wrap up this episode today, again, thank you so much for joining us, Alex.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
there, how can one learn more about Mojo?
Yeah, please go to www.mojo.biz to learn more about our team. And if you have any questions, please, reach out. So, yeah.
And don't forget to visit us on YouTube. Like, follow, subscribe, share it with your friends. The Diligent Leader, how you can master business. And of course, you can always send us in your questions. If you have questions about how you can master your business, we're happy to connect with you. And we're looking forward to seeing you for some of our future episodes. This has been wonderful. Alex, Kaylee, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you all back here next time for The Diligent Leader, Mastering Business. I'm Holly Basta.
And I'm Kaylee Jakovics. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.